Data from Yelp shows that in the past couple of weeks, as states have seen a resurgence of the coronavirus, many businesses that had reopened, have been forced to shut down again. Since March 1st, 16% of previously closed businesses listed on Yelp have reopened, but that's actually a decrease from the last time we looked at it, when we saw 20% of businesses had reopened. Joining us now for a closer look at this, Justin Norman, Vice President of Yelp Data and Science, and Annetta Markowska, Chief Financial Economist at Jefferies. So, Justin, and I looked at, you can just predict which ones we're talking about, can't you? It just made perfect sense to me. Can you tell us which ones are really most vulnerable to the latest setbacks we've had?
Yes, thank you, and thanks for having me back.
Sure.
So, as you said, we have seen a bit of a bumpy road towards the reopening and recovery, but the main categories that have been hit have stayed consistent. So it's retail, restaurants, and beauty and fitness have been the hardest sectors that have been hit. And in particular, retail has showed that there's about 30,000 businesses overall that have closed since the height of the pandemic and continued to close at a fairly steady rate as we've gone through the reopening process. And in addition, in the restaurant category, where a lot of the businesses may have had a certain amount of runway that they were, hoping to come through, especially as the reopening and recovery in some areas has accelerated, we still saw about 26,000 close, which was up since the last time we talked.
Can you give us sort of an insight into permanent closures? Is there a way you can tell the difference in the data?
Yeah, absolutely, we can. And so about 41% the last time we spoke were permanent closures of the total number. And that has increased as well, about 3% over the last couple of weeks. And so that's showing us that we're having a bit of a more bumpy road. And in addition to that, we're seeing that some of the innovation that some businesses have been successful in some categories. And in some categories, like restaurants and retail, it's been really difficult as some of those government protections have perhaps run out, or the sort of mitigations that those businesses have used are not really allowing them to pay the bottom line or get to the bottom line that they need to stay open or sustain their operations.
So, Annetta, you look at different data, but you're seeing kind of like the same thing, I think. But I'm glad I took calculus. I don't remember it very much, but we're near, in terms of coming back, we're near highs in terms of coming back, but the second derivative has changed. You can tell that there's been some bumpiness in trying to reopen from the data.
Exactly. So if you look at the level of activity, we inflected mid-April. From mid-April to mid-June, it was pretty much a straight line up. And mid-June, we started to flatten out at a national level. You certainly see it in small business data, restaurant bookings, but even retail traffic and mobility data. Very uneven, obviously, state by state, but you are seeing now contractions in activity in COVID hotspots, Arizona, Texas, Florida, and that is now offsetting the ongoing improvement that you're seeing in late opening states like New York. So, net basically flat activity now for 3 weeks in a row. And so as far as official data, I think June is still okay, as we saw with payrolls last week. But I think by the time we get into July, unless we see something change dramatically in the next week or two, July data will be much more challenging. Although
not everything's losing steam. There are, like anything else, there are some things that aren't headed that way. I'm going to ask Justin whether he's seeing that too. But which ones are they, Annetta?
So for me, geographically is where you're seeing the biggest difference. As I mentioned, you're seeing activity contract in a lot of the early reopening states where you've had a COVID resurgence. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, a lot of this late reopening states, we're still grinding higher. So things are looking good here. It's just that, at a national level, that's sort of canceling out, and net you're seeing things flatten out.
Yeah.